Are you tired of small, underwhelming blueberries? You do everything right, you water them, you prune them, but when harvest time comes, the results are just, okay. What if I told you there's a specific spring feeding strategy that most gardeners miss? A method that uses a few key ingredients to unlock your blueberry bush's true potential for producing massive sweet and juicy fruit. It's not about just throwing any old fertilizer at them. It's about understanding what they truly crave. In this video, I'm going to lay out the complete, foolproof plan for spring fertilization, including the secrets of humic acids and horn shavings that will transform your harvest. Stick around because you're about to learn how to make your neighbours jealous of your blueberry haul. Before we grab our fertilizer bags, we need to understand one fundamental truth. Blueberries are not like other plants in your garden. They are true acid lovers, or what botanists call ericaceous plants. Think of them as the picky eaters of the plant world. While your tomatoes or roses might be happy in a neutral soil with a pH around 6.5 or 7, a blueberry bush in that same soil would get sick and eventually die. They evolved in acidic woodland soils, and their entire root system is designed to thrive in a very specific pH range, ideally between 4.5 and 5.5. If the soil is too alkaline, their roots simply cannot absorb critical nutrients like iron, even if those nutrients are plentiful in the soil. This leads to a condition called iron chlorosis, where the leaves turn yellow. So, our entire fertilization strategy isn't just about feeding the plant. It's about maintaining that perfect acidic environment where the plant can actually eat the food we provide. Every choice we make, from the type of nitrogen we use to the mulch we apply, must serve this one primary goal. So let's talk more about that magic number, soil pH. Imagine pH as a key for a locked pantry full of food. For most plants, a neutral key, a pH of 7, opens the door just fine. But for blueberries, that key is completely the wrong shape. They need a special, acidic key, a pH between 4.5 and 5.5, to unlock that pantry and get to all the delicious nutrients inside, especially iron. When the pH rises above 5.5, it's like the lock on the pantry door starts to jam. The key no longer fits. Even if the pantry is stocked with the best food imaginable, the blueberry bush can't get to it. This is why you can be fertilizing your plant perfectly, but if the pH is wrong, the plant is effectively starving to death. You'll see it in the leaves first. New growth will have leaves that are yellow with green veins. This is the classic sign of iron chlorosis, and it's your plant screaming for help. The first step, before you even think about fertilizer, is to test your soil pH. You can get a simple, inexpensive test kit at any garden centre. Knowing your starting number is the most critical piece of information for growing successful blueberries. Now, why is spring the most important window for this entire process? It all comes down to the plant's natural growth cycle. Throughout the winter, your blueberry bush has been dormant, resting and conserving its energy. As the days get longer and the soil starts to warm up in the spring, the plant gets a signal to wake up and begin its most intensive period of growth for the entire year. It needs a massive amount of energy to push out new leaves, grow new canes, and most importantly, develop the flower buds that will become your delicious berries. Think of this early spring period as the plant's breakfast after a long sleep. It needs a nutrient-rich meal right away to fuel this explosive growth. Fertilizing at this exact time ensures that the essential nutrients are available in the root zone the moment the plant needs them. If you wait too long, the plant will have already used up its stored reserves, and the initial growth of leaves and flowers might be weak, leading directly to a smaller harvest and smaller berries. This first spring feeding sets the stage for the entire season. It is without a doubt the most important meal of the year for your blueberry bushes. Let's dive into one of the biggest and most common mistakes gardeners make, using the wrong type of nitrogen. This is so important. Nitrogen is nitrogen, right? Wrong. Not for blueberries. Nitrogen comes in two primary forms that plants can use: nitrate nitrogen and ammoniacal nitrogen. Most common all-purpose garden fertilizers, like a 10-10-10 formula, contain a high percentage of nitrate nitrogen. For your roses or vegetables, this is perfectly fine. But for blueberries, nitrate nitrogen is toxic. Their specialized root systems are not equipped to process it effectively, and it can actually damage the plant and raise the soil pH, which, as we know, is the exact opposite of what we want. It's like trying to run a diesel engine on gasoline. It just won't work and will cause serious damage. Blueberries, on the other hand, have evolved to thrive on ammoniacal nitrogen. This is the form of nitrogen naturally found in the acidic, organic soils where they grow in the wild. When you are shopping for blueberry fertilizer, you must read the label carefully and choose one that derives its nitrogen from sources like ammonium sulfate, urea, or organic sources like cottonseed meal or horn shavings. This single choice can be the difference between a thriving, productive bush and a sick, struggling one. Given the blueberries' need for ammoniacal nitrogen and acidic soil, one product stands out as a true superstar: ammonium sulfate. This should be a staple in the toolshed of every serious blueberry grower. Ammonium sulfate is a synthetic fertilizer that is brilliant for two reasons. First, its nitrogen is 100% in the ammoniacal form, which is exactly what blueberry roots are designed to absorb. It's like serving them their absolute favourite food. They can take it up quickly and efficiently to fuel that critical spring growth. Second, and just as importantly, it has a strong acidifying effect on the soil. As the plant roots absorb the ammonium, they release a hydrogen ion, which directly lowers the soil's pH. So, with every application, you are not only feeding your plant the right kind of nitrogen, but you are also actively working to maintain or lower the soil pH, keeping it in that sweet spot between 4.5 and 5.5. This two-in-one action makes ammonium sulfate an incredibly efficient tool. It solves the two biggest challenges of blueberry cultivation: proper feeding and pH management, in a single, easy-to-use product. When used correctly and in the right amounts, it is one of the most effective ways to ensure your bushes are happy and productive. When you look at a bag of fertilizer, you'll always see three numbers, like 10-10-10 or 21-00. This is the NPK ratio, which stands for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. These are the three main macronutrients plants need. We've already established that the type of nitrogen, the N, is critical. Now let's talk about the other two. Phosphorus, the P, is important for root development and flowering. However, blueberries have a relatively low requirement for phosphorus compared to many other plants. In fact, excessive phosphorus can interfere with the uptake of iron and other micronutrients, causing more problems than it solves. Many acidic soils already have sufficient phosphorus available. Potassium, the K, is vital for overall plant health, disease resistance, and fruit quality. Blueberries do need a steady supply of potassium. Therefore, an ideal fertilizer for blueberries would have a nitrogen source from ammonium sulfate, a low or even zero amount of phosphorus, and a moderate amount of potassium. A formulation specifically for acid-loving plants is often a good choice. Or you can use straight ammonium sulfate, which has an NPK of 21-00, and supplement potassium separately with a product like sulfate of potash, which also has a mild acidifying effect. Avoid superphosphate or bone meal, as these are high in phosphorus and will raise the soil pH. Now we move beyond the basic fertilizers and into the realm of what I call soil enhancers. These are the secret weapons that take your blueberry growing from good to great. And the first one we need to talk about is humic acid. What is it? Humic acid isn't a fertilizer in the traditional sense. It doesn't contain large amounts of NPK. Instead, you should think of it as a powerful soil conditioner and a nutrient catalyst. It's a complex, natural organic molecule that is formed over thousands of years by the microbial degradation of dead plant and animal matter. It is essentially the very essence of rich, black, healthy topsoil. When you add humic acid to your soil, you are turbocharging the soil's biology and chemistry, It acts like a powerful magnet for nutrients. The humic acid molecules grab onto nutrient ions in the soil, preventing them from being washed away or locked up in a form the plant can't use. It then holds these nutrients in an easily accessible state, ready for the plant's roots to absorb them as needed. In essence, it makes your existing soil and the fertilizers you add work much, much better. It's the ultimate efficiency booster for your blueberry feeding program. Let's get a little more specific about how humic acids work their magic in the soil around your blueberry roots. One of their most important functions is a process called chelation. That's a fancy word, but the concept is simple. In soil, especially if the pH isn't perfect, essential micronutrients like iron, manganese, and zinc can get locked up chemically, making them unavailable to the plant. Humic acid molecules are natural chelators. They wrap around these mineral ions, almost like a claw, and hold them in a water-soluble form that the plant's roots can easily absorb. This is incredibly important for preventing the iron chlorosis we talked about earlier. Beyond that, humic acids dramatically improve the physical structure of your soil. They help bind tiny clay particles into larger aggregates, which improves aeration and drainage in heavy soils. In sandy soils, they do the opposite, helping to bind sand particles together, which greatly improves water and nutrient retention. They also stimulate microbial activity in the soil, creating a healthier and more vibrant ecosystem for the roots to live in. This leads to stronger, more extensive root systems, and a healthier root system means a healthier, more productive plant with bigger and better fruit. So, how do you actually use humic acids on your blueberries? It's incredibly simple. Humic acid products are typically sold in either a liquid concentrate or a dry, granular or powdered form. Both are highly effective, so the choice often comes down to personal preference and ease of application. For the liquid form, you simply dilute it with water according to the package directions. A good starting point is often around 1 to 2 tablespoons per gallon of water. You can then apply this solution as a soil drench, pouring it slowly and evenly around the base of your blueberry bush, covering the entire root zone. It's best to do this after a regular watering or a rain when the soil is already moist. For the granular form, you can sprinkle the recommended amount evenly over the surface of the soil under the bush, extending out to the drip line, which is the edge of the plant's canopy. Then, gently rake it into the top inch or two of your mulch or soil. The next time you water, the granules will begin to dissolve and release the humic acid into the root zone. A good schedule is to apply humic acid at the same time as your first spring fertilization, and then perhaps once more about a month later to keep the benefits going through the early growing season. Our second secret weapon is a fantastic organic fertilizer called horn shavings. If ammonium sulfate is the quick sprint of energy to get the plant going, horn shavings are the slow-burning, long-distance marathon runner. Horn shavings are exactly what they sound like. They are ground-up hooves and horns from livestock, primarily cattle. This might sound a bit strange, but these materials are incredibly rich in a protein called keratin, and keratin is packed with nitrogen. What makes horn shavings so special is how they release this nitrogen. Unlike synthetic fertilizers that are immediately available, horn shavings have to be broken down by the microorganisms in your soil. This is a very slow and gradual process that can take several months. This slow decomposition provides a steady, gentle and continuous supply of nitrogen to your blueberry bushes throughout the entire growing season. This prevents the boom and bust cycle of growth that can happen with too much fast-release fertilizer, where you get a lot of weak, leafy growth followed by a crash. Instead, you get consistent, healthy development of both foliage and, most importantly, the fruit itself. It's the ultimate set-it-and-forget-it nitrogen source. Let's explore the science behind why horn shavings are such an effective long-term food source for your blueberries. The key, as we mentioned, is keratin. This is a very tough, fibrous structural protein. It's the same stuff your fingernails and hair are made of. Because it's so tough and complex, it takes a long time for soil bacteria and fungi to break it down. As these microbes slowly digest the keratin in the horn shavings, they release the nitrogen into the soil in the ammoniacal form that blueberries love. This process mirrors what happens in a natural forest ecosystem, where organic matter like fallen leaves and logs slowly decomposes on the forest floor, providing a constant trickle of nutrients to the plants. Using horn shavings helps you replicate this natural, sustainable feeding cycle in your own garden. Furthermore, as the shavings decompose, they contribute valuable organic matter to the soil. This improves the soil structure, increases its ability to hold water, and provides a food source for beneficial soil life. So, not only are you feeding your plant for the long term, you are also actively building healthier, more resilient soil over time, which is the foundation of all successful organic gardening. Applying horn shavings to your blueberry bushes is a straightforward process that you typically only need to do once a year, in the early spring. The key is to get the shavings into the top layer of your soil, or mulch, where the soil microbes are most active. First, gently pull back the mulch from around the base of your blueberry bush, exposing the soil surface. Be careful not to disturb the shallow roots of the plant. A general guideline for the amount to use is about 1 to 2 cups per mature bush, but always check the product label for specific recommendations. Sprinkle the horn shavings evenly on the soil surface, starting a few inches away from the main stem or crown of the plant, and spreading it out to the drip line. You want to avoid piling any fertilizer directly against the plant's stem. After you've spread the shavings, you can use a small hand rake or just your fingers to gently scratch them into the top inch of soil. This ensures good contact with the soil microbes that will be doing the work of breaking them down. Finally, reapply your layer of mulch right over the top. Water the area well. This activates the microbes and begins the slow, steady process of feeding your plants for the months to come. We've talked about the acidifying effect of ammonium sulfate, but sometimes you need a more powerful long-term tool for managing your soil pH, especially if your native soil or your water source is alkaline. This is where elemental sulfur comes in. It's important to understand the difference. Ammonium sulfate is a fast-acting fertilizer that provides a quick acidifying kick. Elemental sulfur, often sold as a yellow powder or in pellet form, is not a fertilizer. It is purely a soil amendment used to lower pH over a long period. It works through a biological process. When you add elemental sulfur to the soil, a specific type of soil bacteria, thiobacillus, consumes the sulfur and converts it into sulfuric acid. This process is very slow and can take several months or even up to a year, depending on soil temperature and moisture. Because it's a slow biological process, elemental sulfur is best applied in the fall or very early spring, long before the plant needs the acidic environment. This gives the bacteria plenty of time to do their work. You would use this if your initial soil test shows a pH that is significantly too high, say above 6.0. It's a corrective measure to fix a fundamental problem, not a part of your regular feeding routine. All right, let's put all of this together into a clear, step-by-step plan for your first critical spring fertilization. The best time to do this is when the flower buds on the blueberry bush begin to swell, just before they open. This is the sign that the plant is waking up and needs fuel. First, gently pull back the mulch from the base of the plant. Step 2. Apply your long-term organic nitrogen source. Sprinkle 1 to 2 cups of horn shavings evenly around the base of the plant, from a few inches away from the stem, out to the drip line. Gently scratch it into the top inch of soil. Step 3. Apply your fast-acting fertilizer. For a mature bush, use about a half cup of ammonium sulfate, sprinkling it evenly over the same area as the horn shavings. Step 4. Add your soil conditioner. If you're using granular humic acid, apply the recommended amount now. If you're using liquid, you'll apply it with water in the final step. Step 5. Reapply your mulch over the top. And finally, step 6. Water everything in thoroughly. If using liquid humic acid, mix it into your watering can for this final step. This deep watering activates the ammonium sulfate, starts the breakdown of the horn shavings, and carries the nutrients down into the root zone. Let's get even more specific about timing, because doing this at the right moment can make a huge difference. As we said, the primary indicator is the plant itself. You want to watch for the flower buds to swell and get plump. This stage is often called bud break. In many climates, this happens sometime in March or April, but it can vary greatly depending on your location and the specific weather of the year. Don't just go by the calendar date. Go by what your plant is telling you. Applying the fertilizer too early, when the ground is still frozen or the plant is fully dormant, is wasteful. The plant can't use the nutrients, and they may just wash away with winter rains or snow melt. Applying it too late, after the plant has already leafed out and the flowers have opened, means you've missed that critical window to fuel the initial burst of growth. The plant will have already used its stored energy reserves. So make it a habit to check on your bushes every few days as spring approaches. Once you see those buds starting to move and swell up, that is your green light. That is the day to put your fertilization plan into action. This precise timing ensures maximum nutrient uptake and sets your plants up for the best possible season. That first spring feeding is the most important, but it shouldn't be the only one. Blueberry bushes work hard through the spring, first flowering and then beginning the process of forming fruit. This process uses up a lot of energy and nutrients. To support the plant and ensure it has enough fuel to develop large, plump berries, a second application of fertilizer is highly recommended. The ideal timing for this second feeding is about 4 to 6 weeks after the first one. A great visual cue to look for is when the initial flowering period has finished and you can see tiny green berries starting to form. At this point, the plant is switching its energy focus from creating flowers to swelling that fruit. For this second application, you don't need to add more horn shavings, as the first dose is still breaking down and will continue to feed the plant for months. Instead, you'll just repeat the application of your fast-acting fertilizer. Apply another half cup of ammonium sulfate per mature plant, spreading it evenly around the drip line over the mulch, and water it in well. This provides another quick boost of nitrogen and acidity, right when the plant needs it to size up those berries for a bountiful summer harvest. This second application is the key to getting that impressive fruit size. We've mentioned mulch several times, but it's worth dedicating a whole section to its importance because it's so much more than just a tidy ground covering. For blueberries, the right kind of mulch is a critical component of your overall cultivation strategy. The best mulches are acidic organic materials. Things like pine needles, pine bark nuggets, shredded oak leaves, or sawdust from untreated wood are all excellent choices. As these materials slowly decompose, they release organic acids into the soil, which helps to maintain that low pH that blueberries crave. A good 2 to 4 inch layer of one of these mulches does several other amazing things. It helps to conserve soil moisture by reducing evaporation, which means you have to water less often. It suppresses weeds which would otherwise compete with your blueberry's shallow root system for water and nutrients. It also insulates the soil, keeping the roots cooler in the summer and protecting them from temperature extremes. A healthy layer of organic mulch is basically creating a mini forest floor environment, which is the perfect habitat for a thriving blueberry bush. Never use mushroom compost or generic hardwood bark mulch, as these are often alkaline and will raise the soil pH over time, undoing all your hard work. Watering might seem basic, but its role in fertilization is absolutely critical. You can apply the best fertilizers in the world, but without adequate water, they are completely useless to the plant. Blueberry plants have very fine, fibrous root systems that are quite shallow, mostly living in the top foot or so of soil. This shallow root system means they are very sensitive to drying out. Consistent moisture is key to their health. In the context of fertilizing, water is the vehicle that transports the nutrients. When you apply a granular fertilizer like ammonium sulfate, it needs to be dissolved by water before the nutrients can be carried down into the soil and absorbed by the roots. Watering thoroughly after every fertilizer application is non-negotiable. It activates the fertilizer and begins moving it into the root zone immediately. Furthermore, all the biological processes in the soil, like the breakdown of horn shavings by microbes or the conversion of sulfur by bacteria, require a moist environment to function effectively. A dry soil is a dead soil. Aim to keep the soil consistently moist, like a wrung-out sponge, but never waterlogged or swampy. Proper watering ensures your investment in quality fertilizers and amendments actually pays off. While feeding your blueberries is crucial, it is possible to have too much of a good thing. Over-fertilization can be just as harmful as under-fertilization, if not more so. The most common sign of feeding your plants too much, especially with fast-acting synthetic fertilizers like ammonium sulfate, is leaf scorch. You'll notice the tips and the edges of the leaves turning brown and crispy, looking as if they've been burned. This happens because the high concentration of fertilizer salts in the soil actually draws water out of the plant's roots through osmosis, effectively dehydrating it from the ground up. In severe cases, you might see sudden wilting of the entire plant, even when the soil is moist. If you suspect you've over-fertilized, the best immediate remedy is to flush the soil. Apply a large volume of plain water to the root zone, letting it soak in and drain through. Do this several times over the course of a day or two. This will help to dilute the excess fertilizer salts and wash them deeper into the soil profile, away from the sensitive root zone. In the future, always err on the side of using a little less fertilizer than you think you need, and never apply it to dry soil, as this concentrates the salts and makes burning much more likely. Just as it's important to recognize the signs of too much fertilizer, it's also vital to learn what your plant looks like when it's hungry for a specific nutrient. We've already covered the most common issue, iron chlorosis. This is when the new leaves at the tips of the branches turn a pale yellow or even whitish colour, while the veins on those leaves remain dark green. This is almost always a sign of a pH problem, not a lack of iron in the soil. The solution is to lower the pH, not just add more iron. Another common deficiency is nitrogen. A nitrogen-deficient plant will have older lower leaves that turn a uniform, pale green or yellow. The overall growth of the plant will be stunted and weak. This is a clear sign that it's time to feed. A less common but still possible issue is magnesium deficiency. This will show up on older leaves as a distinct pattern where the edges of the leaf turn yellow or red, often in a V shape, while the centre of the leaf and the veins remain green. This can be corrected with a small application of Epsom salts, which is magnesium sulfate. Learning to read these visual cues from your plants allows you to diagnose problems early and provide exactly what they need to thrive, ensuring they can focus their energy on producing those big, beautiful berries you're working towards. So let's tie this all together into a cohesive, season-long strategy. Your success with blueberries isn't about one single action, but about creating and maintaining the perfect ecosystem for them to thrive in. It all starts in the early spring, before the plant even wakes up, by ensuring your soil pH is in that acidic sweet spot. Then, as the buds swell, you provide that critical first meal, a combination of fast-acting ammonium sulfate to kickstart growth and slow-release horn shavings to provide steady energy for the months to come. You enhance this with humic acid to make all the nutrients more available and to improve the soil structure. You follow up with a second boost of ammonium sulfate after flowering to help swell the fruit. Throughout this entire time, you maintain a thick layer of acidic mulch, like pine bark or pine needles, to protect the soil, conserve moisture, and continue to acidify. And you water consistently, ensuring the plant is never stressed and can make full use of the nutrients you've provided. By thinking of it as a complete system, managing pH, providing the right food at the right time, and creating a healthy soil environment, you move from simply hoping for a good harvest to actively engineering one. This holistic approach is what consistently produces those huge, abundant, and delicious blueberries. So there you have it. The secret to giant blueberries isn't really a single secret at all. It's a three-part strategy. First, obsess over your soil pH. Get it right, And keep it right. It's the master key that unlocks everything else. Second, feed your plants what they actually want to eat. Ammoniacal nitrogen, not the nitrate nitrogen found in most all-purpose fertilizers. And third, think long-term. Use amazing organic amendments like horn shavings and humic acids to build healthy, living soil that will sustain your plants for years to come. By combining these three elements, you're creating the absolute perfect conditions for your blueberry bushes to reach their maximum potential. You'll be rewarded not just with a bigger harvest, but with healthier, more resilient plants. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this guide gives you the confidence to grow the blueberries of your dreams. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for more gardening guides. Now, I have a question for you. What's your #1 favourite way to use blueberries? In pies, smoothies, or just eating them fresh by the handful? Let me know in the comments below.